Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a massive collection of genuinely terrifying real-life encounters and distilling them down into the ultimate psychological analysis of fear. We are going to figure out exactly why certain experiences just freeze our blood and what these raw, unfiltered human survival stories can actually teach us about our own built-in instincts. So let's just jump right in. What makes a true story truly terrifying? When you look across all these accounts, a really clear pattern pops up. True terror, it's not about ghosts, it's not the supernatural. It is all about the sudden, jarring subversion of our basic, everyday safety. It's that exact heart-stopping moment when the rules of your reality are quietly rewritten without your permission. Act 1, the illusion of sanctuary. This is when our safest spaces are violently disrupted. Think about where you feel most secure. Usually, it's your home, right? But man, that illusion can turn into a trap in a heartbeat. Just listen to this chilling question. You don't remember me, do you? To really grasp why that is so horrifying, you need the backstory. Weeks before hearing that, a young boy woke up during what was supposed to be a totally innocent backyard campout, only to find the man who said those words lurking right outside his tent in the pitch black. It is the ultimate terrifying collision of expectation versus reality. Picture it. On one side, you've got a kid in his own backyard expecting total, unquestionable safety. On the other side, the visceral reality he woke up to, hearing a tent zipper slowly dragging downward and then seeing a single eye glowing in the tiny gap of the fabric, literally inches from his face. That sanctuary of the backyard, completely illusionary. And you know, that false sense of security definitely extends indoors too. Take this account. A man was cleaning out his late father's remote, locked cabin. He suddenly notices this horrific, overpowering smell of rotten meat. He goes to investigate the pull-down attic and finds a massive hoard of trash, food wrappers, and just absolute filth scattered everywhere. Naturally, he assumes an animal must be living and probably dying up in the walls. So he gives up on the attic and sits down in the dim living room just to catch his breath. But then he glances over at a blanket tossed near a recliner. A blanket he knows for a fact was not there earlier. And sticking out from under it, the bottom of a boot. The mangy stranger who had been secretly living up in that attic filth wasn't upstairs anymore. He was currently hiding right under that blanket, breathing just inches away. Moving on to Act 2, the perils of isolation. What happens when you have to rely entirely on yourself? Look, if our homes offer at least an illusion of safety, the wilderness offers absolutely none. Notice how fast this threat escalates. There's this local town oddball named Hector. Everyone knows him, he harmlessly skips around the streets. But a hiker discovers the reality of Hector deep in an isolated forest. The harmless skipping turns into Hector violently arguing with unseen voices right before he notices the hiker and just charges at him in a screaming, rage-filled sprint. But the detail that makes Hector's attack truly chilling is what we find out next. The hiker miraculously escapes, goes to the local sheriff, and reports it. The sheriff turns completely white. She reveals that a local man's remains were actually found in that exact same clearing years prior. And after the hiker's encounter, Hector vanished into the woods and was literally never seen again. Being isolated on the open water is honestly just as terrifying. This is brilliantly captured in a story about three friends out fishing. Out of nowhere, they approach this massive, silent yacht flying a bright orange distress flag in the middle of a huge lake. When you're out there, you are the only lifeline. So one of the guys boards the ship, fully expecting a medical emergency. But instead, he walks onto an eerie ghost ship. There are fresh muddy footprints, 3 hot steaming coffee mugs, but absolutely no crew. The only person is a frail, silent woman hiding under a pile of pillows on a bed. Wordlessly, she gets up, takes down the distress flag, and just retreats back inside. The rescuer gets totally spooked, flees back to his boat, and the yacht completely vanishes before the police can even arrive. It is a totally unsolved puzzle surrounded by deep water. That brings us to Act 3, the power of intuition, and the ultimate fight or flight response. This dives into those everyday situations where your intuition becomes your single, absolute, only defense. Picture this. A 15-year-old takes what looks like a super lucrative babysitting job from a seemingly normal mother, but the reality she walks into, entirely different. There's no kid anywhere. Every single bedroom door in the hallway is locked tight, and there are 0 toys around. And the absolute worst part, she finds a strange man with a missing tooth standing in a dark room, just staring blankly out a window into the pitch black. She calls the mom, and the mother uses this casual excuse over the phone, claiming she just forgot to mention her brother. But the babysitter's gut instinct is absolutely screaming that something is horribly wrong. She locks herself in the guest room. Just moments later, she hears the man's wet, slow footsteps walk down the hall and stop right outside her door. Listening to that pure intuition, she forces open a window and bolts into the night, absolutely refusing to stick around and find out if that mother's story was actually true. Let's look at how this exact same intuition plays out in a totally different scenario. A woman is at a club with a coworker, and a stranger buys them drinks. All of a sudden, she's hit with this unnatural, incredibly heavy wave of dread and paranoia. Her body is screaming that she's been drugged. She immediately flees to her car, barely locking the doors before two men appear out of nowhere and violently try to rip her out. She manages to speed off, wondering the next morning if maybe the drug just made her hallucinate the whole attack. That is, until she walks outside and sees her driver's side door handle is completely missing, ripped clean off. When she furiously calls her coworker about it, the coworker casually drops a terrifying admission. The spiked drinks weren't actually meant for her. This proves her intuitive terror in the club was 100% justified, and that physical damage to her car, definitely no hallucination. Think about it. If she had ignored that initial wave of dread just to stay and be polite to her coworker, she never would have made it to the safety of her car. Finally, let's talk survival, the psychology of fear, and some actionable lessons from all this real-life horror.
So what can we actually take away from these encounters? First and most importantly, prioritize your intuition over social grace, always. Almost every single survivor in these accounts felt pure fear well before they saw definitive proof of danger. They survived because they acted on that fear right away. Also, remember that subverting our expectations of safety is the true root of terror. We have to always secure our environment and verify who we're actually dealing with, especially when we're isolated. I want to leave you with a final, kind of unsettling thought to ponder. Look back on your own life. How many times have you put yourself in a potentially terrifying situation simply because you didn't want to seem rude? Real-life horror absolutely relies on our desire to follow standard social scripts. So the next time you feel that inexplicable sense of dread, remember these stories. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, stay safe out there.